Hi fellow guitar nerds, and thank you for tuning in. In this video we are checking out the TC Electronics 2290P Dynamic Digital Delay. You heard this pedal on all the guitars in the song in the beginning of the video. Now, I have always been a huge fan of delay, and back in the early 2000s I had a gigantic wet-dry-wet system housing the original 2290. I was unfortunately dumb enough to sell it, but that is another story. So, needless to say, I was very excited to check out this new pedal version of this legendary delay unit. So the nice people at TC Electronic were kind enough to send me one to check out. I hooked it up to one of the effects loops in my Helix, and I was immediately beamed back in time. To my ears, it sounds and reacts just like I remember, and those were very good memories. Now, before we dive into some sound examples and all of the controls, I just want to let you know that this might turn into a rather long video, as the pedal can do so much more than just delay. I put timestamps down in the description so that you can skip to the part that you want to learn more about. Also, please listen on headphones or some good studio monitors to get the full stereo experience. And finally, before we continue, I just want to bring you this disclaimer. All the information I'm about to give you is based on other YouTube videos and my own research into the pedal, as at the time of recording this video, TC Electronic has not yet released an official user manual. All you get in the box is this quick start guide, and that mainly focuses on connections and a short description of the individual knobs. All this means that I could be wrong on some of the parameters, so please take that into account when watching this video. Also, this is not a tutorial on how to create the effects like chorus and flanger that this unit is capable of. There are lots of other videos out there showing you how to do that, so please go and check those out. Alright, with that out of the way, let's dig into it. Alright, first things first, the pedal is hooked up to my Helix floor in a serial effects loop, and this is the sound with the pedal turned off. And by the way, I am using my new Green River GR16 loaded with Green River pickups. Now normally I would run a delay pedal in a parallel loop and turn down the mix control or utilize its kill drive function. And you could do that with this pedal in the output section. However, if you want to do anything other than delay effects with this pedal, this will not work, as you need to mix the delayed and the modulated signal in the direct signal inside the pedal for it to work. Otherwise you will get some really weird phasing issues, and that will ruin the sound. Also, the AD and DA conversion in the pedal are so good that there are no sonic differences between sending the entire signal through the pedal and back into the helix or the effects loop of your amp compared to using it in a parallel loop. Alright, first let us look at the ins and outs of the pedal. As you can tell, this pedal is true stereo with 2 ins and 2 outs, unlike the original unit, which was only mono in and stereo out. With this little switch you can turn these jacks into a feedback loop so that you can add other effects to the delayed signal. You will, however, lose the stereo capabilities if you use this feedback loop, as 2 of the jacks are used to send and return, which leaves only 1 input and 1 output. Next is an input for the expression pedal, which you can set up to control any parameter in any preset. In order to set this up, you need to connect the pedal to a computer via the USB-C connection right here and download the accompanying software. The software is not an actual editor, meaning that you can't edit the different parameters in a preset, but you can reorder and rename presets, and you can set up MIDI and program the expression pedal. Hopefully TC will make an actual editor at some point, as it would make tweaking the presets much easier. Anyway, if you want me to make a video about using the software, please let me know down in the comments. Next is the power input, and the pedal does come with its own power supply. And finally, we have MIDI in and out / through. The MIDI capabilities are very comprehensive and beyond the scope of this video. Once again, let me know if that's something you want to see in a future video. On the front of the pedal we have 3 foot switches, A, B and learn or tap tempo. As you can see in the preset display, we are currently on preset 1, and the red indicator above the foot switch tells us that we are in preset 1A. Press foot switch B and we go into 1B. Press the same foot switch again and the pedal will turn the effect off along with the indicator. If you want to go into preset 2B, you need to press B and learn at the same time to put it into up-down mode. Then press them once again to get to 2, and then select either A or B to load the preset that you want. Alright, moving to the knobs above the foot switches. The first knob is an encoder and not a keypad as on the original unit. This is most likely to save space on the pedal, and since the buttons are smaller on the pedal than they were on the original unit, it would probably be a little fiddly to use. The encoder is of course used to change parameter values in the presets. Next is the preset section. Here you can see which preset is currently active along with the indicator above the foot switch. Press the preset button and turn the encoder to get to the preset number you want. Then press either foot switch A or B to load that preset. In order to store a preset, press the store button, use the encoder knob to find the preset number you want to use, then press either A or B and once again press store, and the preset is now stored at this new location. Next are the output controls. You have a delay output and a direct output, which means that you can blend the signals any way you want, sort of like the old standard mix control. You change the values by pressing the delay button to edit the delay output. Let's try turning it down. Turning it back up again. Or you can access the direct level and turn that down. Or turn it back up again. Then there is a pan control or panning control that you can access by pressing both knobs at the same time. By doing so, you can see that the display over here changes to a line that represents the panning of the signal. In order for the panning to have any effect, you need to select which part of the signal you want to pan. The delayed signal, the direct signal, or both at the same time. You do that in the pan and dynamic section over here by pressing this button. As you can see, I'm in the delay mode. Going into panning, you can see that the top half of the line is moving either left or right. This top half of the line is representing the delayed signal. So I'm going to turn it all the way to the left or all the way to the right or anywhere in between. Putting the pan control at 50 will put it in the center. Now you can press this button and choose the direct signal. And once again, double clicking here. Now notice that it is the bottom half of the line that is moving, and that is representing the direct signal. I'm going to put it all the way to the left. Finally, I can press this button one more time, and then I have selected both the direct and the delayed signal. So once again, doing this, turning the encoder, you can see that one signal is moving to the right and the other is moving to the left. Or the other way around. Finally, if you double-click the delay button, you can invert the phase of the entire output signal, like this. 0 represents not inverted and 1 represents inverted, and this is the inverted sound. And this is the not inverted sound. Let's move on to the feedback controls. This first knob controls the actual feedback or number of repeats, if you will. Like this, pressing the button and changing the value. Let's crank it up. Or down again. Next is the invert button, which will invert the phase of the feedback signal. This is not inverted. Going back to not inverted. Finally, we have the select button, and when set to the level position, we are controlling the feedback level as I just described. Press it once and we go into the EQ section. In the high position, we are controlling the high cutoff, so rolling off high end at the delayed signal. The number in the display is the frequency in kilohertz, ranging from 1 to 20 kilohertz. And setting it at 20 is the equivalent of turning it off. Let's try rolling off some high end. Note that the moving line over here is a representation of the frequency. Now you can clearly hear that it is rolling off high end. Alright, I'm going to put it back at the off position, like this. Now pressing the select button one more time, we are going into the low roll-off, and this has a range from 0 to 800 Hertz. Once again, 0 being the equivalent of the EQ being turned off. Let's try rolling off some low end. Next are the delay settings, and the first knob is called delay. If you press that, you can set the delay time using the encoder. If you want to scroll faster, you can hold down the delay button and turn the wheel, and then you can see that it is moving in increments of 100 milliseconds. You can also use the learn foot switch to tap the tempo. Notice that the display changes to beats per minute instead of milliseconds. After a few seconds, the display will turn back to milliseconds, but until that, you are able to set the desired BPM with the encoder like this. Next is the mod button, and this will turn on or off modulation as it is set up in the modulation section, which we will get back to later in the video. With the mod turned on, you are now modulating the delayed signal, and it sounds like this. Now this is just a random setting in the modulation, so bear with me. If you press the mod button one more time, the display will say deep, and that means that the modulation effects are going into a more extreme setting, like this. Next is the invert button, which will invert the flange sweep start and the envelope pitch direction. However, this only works if the modulation is enabled and the waveform in the delay modulation is set to either envelope or trigger. Finally, we have the subdivision button, which will set the subdivision of the delay when using the learn or tap tempo foot switch. The options for the subdivision are straight, dotted, triplets, or off. You can set it to straight like this and change the value with the encoder. If you set it to off, it will no longer respond when you tap on the learn foot switch. The subdivision can also affect the modulation, panning and dynamics in the modulation section, but we will get back to that later. Then we get to the panning and dynamic section. In this section you can turn on or off the panning and dynamics and select which part of the signal is affected. Let's start with the panning. By pressing the pan button you can turn the panning on or off like this. This is off. This is on. The delay and direct button can choose which part of the signal that is affected by the panning. You can go from none, delay, direct, or both. If you set it to none, then nothing happens. Set it to delay and only the delay is being panned. Set it to direct and only the direct signal is being panned. Set it to both and both signal will be panned. And once again, you can turn it off. On the dynamic button, you can turn the dynamics on or off. This applies to things like ducking. Right now the dynamics are on and the delay is ducking when I'm playing. Now if I switch it off, and back on. Now you can also reverse this effect by pressing the reverse button, which means that now the delay will be loud when I'm playing and basically go away when I stop. Sounds like this. The last section is the modulation section. The first two knobs are speed and depth, and they will control the speed and depth of whatever you select with this select button. Currently I'm on the delay, and that means that it is the delayed signal that is affected by these speed and depth controls. And the waveform is set to sine or sine wave. Now in order to hear the effect you need to turn it on. Just going to turn off the dynamics so that you can hear it better. And once again, if you go into deep mode, the effect is going to be more extreme. Alright, putting it back to the normal modulation, let's just try tweaking the speed and depth knobs. Now, as I explained earlier, the subdivision button can also apply for the modulation. In order to set this up, you need to press the speed button and hold it down and then press the subdivision button. And you can see that currently the subdivision for the delay sine wave is off. Now let's try putting this into the pan section. Hold down the speed knob and the subdivision, and now you can set up whatever kind of subdivision you want on the panning. Let's try putting it in a straight note and eighths. As you can hear, it is panning according to the tapped tempo. You can also see that the display is changing over here whenever I tap in a new tempo. We could try putting it to something like half notes like this. Now this linking of the tap tempo to the modulation can be set up to any of the waveforms which you can switch between down here on this waveform button. You have a sinus wave, you have random, you have an envelope filter, and you have a trigger. Now these will all do various things depending on what you have selected with the select button. And here you can choose between delay, which is modulating the delayed signal, the panning control, and the dynamic controls. You may also have noticed that there's another label here called threshold, and if you press the speed and depth button at the same time, you will open the threshold menu. Now I can do this right now and you will see that nothing actually happens, and that is because I'm in the sine waveform. It doesn't work, it doesn't have any effect in there, it doesn't have any effect on the random either. But going into envelope and doing it again, pressing speed and depth, you can see that the display over here says volume. And by doing this, you can set the threshold of which the incoming signal needs to pass above for the envelope effect to kick in. Switching this waveform down to trigger and pressing the speed and depth button again to enter threshold, you will see that now, if I do it more than one time, I have both a volume threshold and a feedback threshold. Now, like I said in the beginning of this video, it is not a tutorial of setting up the effects. However, I am going to show you my settings of the dynamic modulation, aka the ducking, because this is my absolute favorite thing about the 2290p. Alright, these are my settings in the modulation section to get a ducking effect like this. First of all, you need to be in dynamic mode. The waveform needs to be on trigger, and I have set it up with a speed of 0.43, a depth of 15, and a volume threshold of 19, and a feedback threshold of 70. And that will once again give you this result. Now, many have tried to replicate the docking features of this unit, but in my opinion, nobody has ever gotten it quite right. The docking features of the 2290 is extremely musical to my ears, and I think it comes down to the number of things that you can tweak, which includes the speed and depth, but also the threshold of the volume and the feedback. These 4 parameters altogether makes the way that the delay returns back very pleasing to the ear, and I really like that. Finally, I just want to show you this cool protection screen that comes with the pedal to protect it from accidentally messing up with your settings in a live situation. You just click it on like this, and now no one can accidentally hit any of the buttons. The screen is held in place by small magnets, and if you need to tweak something on the fly, you can just lift it up, put it there, do your tweakings, pop it back in position, and you're good to go. Alright, thank you very much for watching my demo of the 2290P by TC Electronic. I think the 2290P is a fantastic pedal, and I am blown away by how much it sounds like the original unit. The good people at TC Electronic must have put a lot of effort into making this thing as close as it is to the original unit. If you have stuck with me to the very end, I thank you very much, and I hope you learned something new about the 2290P so that you can make even more cool presets with your own pedal. Until we meet again, stay cool.